The United Federation of Planets is the united government of many, many planets. Each member species has to abide by the rules and policies set out by the Federation, and there are a lot of them. Starfleet too has its own standing orders that must be obeyed within its ranks. And the Federation's principles are more to outline a general level of acceptable lifestyle from its member races and to protect the rights of its citizens, whereas those tenets of Starfleet are a bit more militaristic in nature. Hi, Rick here again with part 2 of my Federation overview, part 1 being a general look at the differences between Starfleet, the UFP and the United Earth. This video is going to look into the laws and directives of these organisations and how they affect the governments of the planets who have allied themselves with this great interstellar power. So let's start off by looking at what qualifies a species to join the United Federation of Planets, as the criteria clearly influence the laws that govern them. Yay, this doesn't sound like dry reading at all. First off, a potential member race must have achieved faster than light travel. Most commonly this is warp drive, though harnessing the power of matter-antimatter reactions is not the only method of relevant interstellar propulsion. For example, the Romulans utilise artificial singularities as a power source to fold space in a similar manner to warp, and the Xindi use subspace corridors to achieve the same results, although only one of these two races has ever been a Federation member. This level of technological advancement is seen to be as necessary, and it's adapted from the Vulcan's own principles of first contact. It ensures a species has accepted the possibility of advanced technology and provides common starting grounds for further talks. However, a species that requests to join the Federation must also have developed sufficiently on a societal level. Their planet and government must have a single unifying power that can comfortably reflect the interests of the whole. Now, this isn't to say that the species itself is only allowed one governing body, as different districts, countries and parties all still have their representatives, but the Federation will only deal with a government that represents its entire people. For this reason, discrimination, caste-based social divisions such as slavery and prejudice must be eliminated in their entirety. It's at this point I feel it's important to point out that the Federation itself is to play no part in the removal of these elements. It's down to the potential member itself to achieve this level of unification. In fact, this non-interference policy is the prime directive of Starfleet, and the UFP has something similar. Other criteria include the appointment of an ambassador and the acceptation of an embassy when and where necessary. A joining race cannot be actively engaged in hostilities with an existing member race either. Once a member, that species must abide by the rules of the Federation and in return will be protected by them. They cannot interfere in cultures foreign to their own without due purview. They must respect the cultures of those within the Federation, including its arts, traditions and beliefs, so long as they do not conflict with the general principles of the Federation. Additionally, they may not impede the rights of races outside of the Federation. A joining race retains its own governmental structure and justice system, again so long as it does not conflict with the rights of sentient species set out in the Federation Charter. Once full membership's been attained, the species may choose to share its knowledge, research and development in the spirit of cooperation and betterment. They may also contribute its military or scientific arms to bolster that of the Federation, that being Starfleet or other UFP organisations. And if an individual is part of Starfleet, they must also abide by its laws and regulations. This level of cooperation is actively encouraged, although not enforced. However, if a species isolates itself within the Federation, then that sort of defeats the point of becoming a member in the first place, and although they still gain access to much of the cumulative knowledge of the UFP, they may develop a reputation. Any amendments to the Federation Charter are to be brought before an entire assembly of officials before they can be ratified. Although there is always leeway in a species negotiating its membership, as with the aftermath of the Dominion War, violation of these principles is treated severely and eligibility for membership in the United Federation of Planets will be put under review. Potential penalties include trade limitations, travel limitations and even the termination of membership. A member that is dismissed from the Federation generally withdraws its presence from Starfleet and other Federation institutions. They lose access to its member races in terms of trade and tech, as well as generally withdrawing from Federation territory. Now, as mentioned, Starfleet itself has its own rules and regulations in addition to the Federation Charter, but it is founded on the same spirit of cooperation and unity. Hence, applicants to Starfleet do not even need to be of a Federation race. See Lieutenant Commander Worf or Ensign Nog, who are Klingon and Ferengi respectively, both species of which maintain their own independence. Now, these Starfleet orders are numerous and spread over several areas such as standing orders, protocol and directives, so I'll just list a few. But at the top of the list is General Order 1, the Prime Directive. This is an adapted version of the Federation's own non-interference policy, but with language and situations benefiting the regimented lifestyle aboard a starship. Order 2 simply states that the taking of sentient life without due cause is prohibited. I mean, murder is bad. Who'd have thought? Starfleet also forbids the death penalty, which seems to contradict General Order 7, which states no vessel under any condition, emergency or otherwise, is to visit Talos 4. Now, the penalty for violating this is death, although it's good to note that the only time this was violated, the penalty was not enforced. Other directives include forcibly removing a native populace from a home planet or colony is forbidden, and knowingly encroaching on an alien species' territory without permission is prohibited. Again, many of these policies are more flexible, though breaking them often results in some form of investigation and assigned blame. Many of the orders and directives apply more to situations that Starfleet crews may encounter while out there exploring space, including numerous first contact protocols. Before engaging a species in battle, any and all attempts to make first contact and achieve non-military resolutions must be made. When confronting any vessel when communications have not been established, you should adopt a position of alert status. Yellow or red, so on. Federation ships are to be scuttled or self-destructed if they pose a hazard to other vessels, and reclamation is impossible. Evacuation of Starfleet vessels if the vessel is compromised beyond repair or remaining would put the entire crew in mortal danger is at the captain's discretion. No flag officer shall beam into a hazardous area without armed escort. Now, Kirk always denied this was actually a thing, saying there was no such rule, but he could be being pedantic. Replace the word beam with enter, and that's probably the official term for this rule. Individuals accused of crime do not have to answer any questions. In the absence of a ship's captain, a flag officer has the authority to assume command should they deem it necessary. The chief medical officer has the authority to relieve an officer or crewman, including of superior rank, if the chief medical officer deems it medically necessary or the officer is otherwise compromised.
Concerns duly noted, Doc, but I gotta get back to work.
I don't believe so.
Come again?
I'm relieving you of duty.
A starship may be scuttled or self-destructed to prevent capture by an enemy force to prevent technological contamination or tactical advantages. The commanding officer is called the captain regardless of rank. Superior officers are to be addressed as sir or ma'am. Asylum is to be granted at the discretion of the captain, providing it does not conflict with the United Federation of Planets Charter or Starfleet law. Accidents have to be documented and investigated. An official letter from an officer to another must be read and replied to. The captain could override a superior's order to an extent when aboard his or her own vessel, though this is always followed up by an inquiry to verify the necessity of the action. And very rarely there was even an order that could allow a captain to destroy all life on a planet's surface if all other methods to neutralise hostility / prevent contamination, etc. have failed. Now, this order has never been seen to be carried out in the TV show, but hypothetically it could apply to the situation where the Borg overran a colony on the border of Federation space, for example. There are also several protocols that are quite often ignored by the crew. Most frequently, a captain was not allowed to leave the ship unattended or engage in away missions unnecessarily. It's actually probably rarer to see that law actually enforced than it is to see it broken. Also, striking a fellow officer was an offence punishable at the captain's discretion. Violation of these principles could result in inquiry, investigation, brig time, demotion, restriction of privileges, court-martial, or even a dishonourable discharge. So, well, there we go. There are a lot of rules to follow for the Federation. let alone members of Starfleet. But most of the principles set out in the charters are there to protect personal freedoms and the individuality of cultures that have joined the organisation, as well as those of the races that the Federation may come across. This sort of unity seeks to strengthen through diversity, but can often be seen as homogenisation from the outside forces, leading many powers to refuse to join the Federation or downright opposing the ever-expanding organisation. But that's the subject for the next video. Thanks for watching. What other Starfleet, United Federation of Planets tenets have I missed out? Uniform regulations. I suppose, but Starfleet seems to get fairly lax on those all by itself. So I didn't forget. I was making a meta statement. Yes, totally that. I'll see you next time for part 3. Thanks for watching, and goodbye.